All right, if you saw the last video, which you were supposed to, you got a preview of today's topic. So this is about family and individual life. Now listen, this is one slide. One slide, that's it. So I'm actually going to involve 16.6 in this video also. All right, you can put this on the same Cornell note sheet if you want. Just make sure you put both essential questions so that you answer any combination in your summary. So I'm not even going to give you a vocab word for these. So let's discuss family life. Now, listen, just like families today, not all families. Super Baby, I guess, has a mission. Go save the world, Super Baby. Go comfort all the grieving Mets fans who are now, with their loss, officially out of contention for the postseason. If you're one of those grieving Mets fans, maybe he's off to grieve with you. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so just like families today, not all families then looked the same, right? But you had some patterns that were more common then than may be common now. So very common, if you had an extra bedroom in your house, especially when money was tight, you would often rent that room out to boarders. So many people just lived in homes with other families. And you see that a lot if you look at like census reports from the 1890s, from the 1900s, 1910. I know my great grandmother, my mom, hi if you're listening, also always tells the story of her grandmother when she was younger, letting in rooms to boarders, your grandparents renting rooms on the farm to boarders. Also, families, if you had an unmarried sibling, they would often live in your house. If one of your parents was widowed, they often lived with you. So often homes had extended families, not just a nuclear family. Here's some facts. A lot of people don't realize this. By 1890, 42% of adult men were not married. And that's a large number. 37% of adult women were not married. And there's a lot of factors that go into this. And you can probably imagine what some of them were, right? But a lot of people just think like everyone was married at a young age back then. Not the case. Many siblings took care of their younger siblings. Now imagine if I said, hey, next year when you graduate high school, you're not going to college, you're taking care of Georgie. She's running away, right? Because that's crazy, right? Some of you may take care of your younger siblings after school, but few people today, like it's their sole responsibility to take care of siblings, right? By the end of the 1800s, birth rates started to decline. Families were not as large as they were before. And also life expectancy started to increase. So people live longer. So this changes things. If this stuff interests you, this is another big topic we discuss in AP Human Geography. So that's a little plug there. By 1900, schools became children's primary responsibility. Like now, school is probably like one of the top main things. You still probably have home responsibilities. You still may have jobs, but school takes up a lot of it. So this is that section. So we're going to now seamlessly move into 16.6 about leisure and mass culture. I was going to make leisure a vocab word. If you don't know what it is, go ahead and look it up. So the question for this one, make sure you write this down. These essential questions are important, right? I'm telling you this. This will help you for the test. What activities emerged for amusement and leisure in the urban environments? So you see here, it's literally just children in the city, right? You may have seen this before. It's illegal now, but playing with the fire hydrants to cool off and have some fun. This is the same video. This is the same video. Looks like Super Baby acquired a cape. He's making sure children are having amusement. All right, so why did people have more time? All right, mostly because of technology. Technology on the assembly line meant people needed to work less hours in the factory. Not to say they were all having, short days, but it started to decrease. Even at home, think about like once things like, vacuum cleaners get invented, how that's going to decrease the amount of time you needed to work at home. So by 1890, the average person, right, worked 66 hours a week. By 1920, that was down to 47 hours. So what are those people going to do with that extra time? Also, you have more people had cash to spend, right? What do they spend their cash on? The sale of board games went way up. Things like pianos to have in the home, um, much produced less more. So I'm going to give you just a little tale. I mentioned my mom's grandmother before, so that's a picture of her before. She was married in 1904, I want to say. I checked. No, 1916. I can double check, but it was within this time period we're learning about. And Parcheesi, you may have played that. That was a game that was brought over from Eastern Europe. I don't know if it was brought over from Polish immigrants, Hungarian immigrants, somewhere around there. But that was given to them as a wedding present, right? So that was like a common thing back then to give people as presents, for people to spend their money on for enjoyment. Right. How did people spend some of this free time? Well, baseball is growing in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You see the photo of the Bambino. That 1920 was one of the best years for Babe Ruth and the Yankees. By 1860, 50 clubs existed, baseball clubs, and by 1876, there actually was a league of professional baseball. I think he wants to go fight crime somewhere else. Croquet, playing on the lawn. I don't really know how to play croquet, but they did. Cycling also grew. Yes. Okay. It's starting to get old, right? Um, by 1900, 10 million bicycles were riding the streets of the United States. Now, bicycles looked much different than bicycles today, but they were out there. And here's something: roads were not initially paved because of cars. Roads were initially paved because this growing bicycling trend, people lobbied the government to pave roads for bicycles. So I always say when motorists yell at bicyclists that they're in their way in the roads, most of these roads are actually first paved for bicyclists. So something to keep in mind. And they're trying to stay healthy. All right, football. Now, football was initially played in colleges. One of the first games, right, was Army versus Rutgers. No, Army versus Rutgers was where the first pass was, I believe. Right? Was it Princeton Rutgers the first game? I don't know, but a lot of like local to this area. And a lot of it was a lot of the wealthier schools. So in the beginning, football was actually played by more wealthy people. So see how things have changed over time. Um, Football was also very dangerous back then. In 1905, 18 people died just from their injuries, and of course, hundreds of others were injured very significantly. Show business also changes a lot with vaudeville shows. You see that up top. Oh, that's the 1920 Army football team, so go Army. And vaudeville shows people would go see. A lot of the topics of these shows would be the Wild West, the Old South, right? This is right after the Civil War, things like that. I just wanted to show you, I looked up some articles about these football deaths. So the one on the left is as late as 1920, where I highlighted in yellow here, just football star dead, and that's it, right? Notre Dame football star is dead, George Gipp. So poor George, not you, George. But then of those 18 that died playing, unfortunately, in 1905, this article actually gives a sad overview towards the end of the year of just how they died. So if you're interested, pause this. You can read some of these stories. A weed entered his nostril, penetrating the brain.
What?
Yeah. One person was kicked in the stomach and then later in the head, and he was unconscious. They revived him. He walked home, and then he just fell, died on his way home. A 15-year-old suffered a fracture of the spine and during a school game. So, whether you play field hockey or soccer, football, I always pray that you guys are safe. But, I mean, this is serious, guys, right? So, crazy stories. All right. What opportunities and technologies also arose at this time? There were now, with these, there weren't, female baseball leagues. We do not have Negro leagues just yet. But some of these, like the vaudeville shows, did offer opportunities for some. You see here a band of African American musicians for a vaudeville show. Some of African Americans were exploited for minstrel shows. Some of these vaudeville shows really played up stereotypes ones that would make us very uncomfortable and not be happy about today if we saw them. So sometimes they were positive opportunities associated with, and sometimes they were negative experiences. By 1900, Edison starts working with movie pictures as well. You start getting films were not like going to a movie theater at first. At first, they were like these little machines you could see moving pictures. Then eventually, you get the creation of a movie theater. But remember, the first motion pictures did not have sound. Above, also, you see George Eastman, the camera. Right, there were cameras around, say, in the times of the Civil War, but it took a long time just to produce one photo. I know we did an activity on that last year. But now it's getting much more efficient. Still not affordable for the average person, but becomes around. How did information spread at this time? I have an example here of two newspapers and some images from the New York Journal, which came around in 1883. This was by Joseph Pulitzer. He put this together. You may hear of the Pulitzer Prize today. He reported on a lot of scandals, right? You want people to read it, put in some juicy scandals. With that, in 1 year, his publication went from selling 20,000 copies to 100,000 copies. So that made him happy. By 1895, you get the New York Journal. Hearst is a famous newspaper name. That's who that was published by. They became rivals of the New York World to compete. A lot of yellow journalism, almost like trying to create the news to sell papers. So not real soon, but eventually we'll get to the sinking of the Maine, and see that as an example of yellow journalism. By 1921, there was one telephone for every 12.6 people in the country. Lots of people shared. Yes, they're like in a half a torso and a leg or something. There were like sometimes a block would share a line. We can talk about that when I'm back, or you can look that up or talk about it, Mr. V, in the meantime. And just to see how information spread through the mail, by 1900, about 4 billion stamps per year were sold in the U.S. By 1920, just 2 years later, 14.3 billion. So that goes up a lot as well. All right, make sure you're answering the essential questions in your summaries. Once again, this will help you in the future, so do not forget them. All right, see you soon.